Hi, everyone. Gene here. Welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, where every single week we answer the most common and uncommon questions about tapping an EFT so you can eliminate self-sabotage, take the action that you want. Over the course of the next number of months, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be reorganizing the archive on the website. And so we're going to be bringing a number of past episodes forward. And so this is an episode from about 10 years ago that is being renumbered and moved forward because it's really one of my favorite tools. So you have an opportunity to hear it. So as we reorganize the podcast moving forward, those older episodes that are going to be remastered and moved forward are going to show up on Monday, while new podcasts are going to show up every single Wednesday. If you have any questions, I can always be reached, Gene, Gene, at tappingqa.com, or just click on the contact link on the website. This is Gene Montrose-Telling. Welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 375, airing August 5th, 2019, originally aired December 9th, 2009. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you're getting a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Today, I want to share with you an interview that I did almost a decade ago with Jessica Ortner of the Tapping Solution. And this was an interview that originally aired in the Tapper Insiders Club. And what it is it is a process that I love. It is a process that I probably do at least once a week for myself. And the reason why I do it is it's such an effective way to tune into our physical self, our emotional self, our intellectual self, and our higher selves, and integrating those in a way. And as we get into this interview, you're actually going to hear me share with Jessica where the idea for the process came from and why I think it is so valuable. Because the interview is about a decade old and I was recovering old audio, the audio isn't quite as clear and crisp as this introduction, but it's still really good quality audio. So you shouldn't have any problem at all listening to it. So here is the grounding process.
In this interview, you'll learn the importance of being aware of your intellectual, spiritual, and physical health, and how by doing this will provide you clarity on what challenges you should address with tapping and how to tap into additional resources. Today, we are speaking to Gene Montrose-Telling. Welcome, Gene.
Thank you very much.
So, Gene, what is this process called?
It's called the grounding process, and it's a technique that allows us to just be fully present to our whole selves, which can allow us to do some pretty amazing things.
So, what's the history behind it?
Where it came from is I was on retreat with Russ Hudson. Russ is one of the international experts on the Enneagram. And as an aside, it was simply as an aside, it wasn't even his main presentation. He made the statement, he said that in order to be a candidate for transformation, we must be in touch with our physical, our emotional, and our intellectual self. And when I heard that, it just rung really, really true. And the thing that I thought coolest about that is that once we are in tune with our physical, our emotional, and our intellectual self, we're simply a candidate for transformation. It doesn't even mean transformation has started. That's the prerequisite for transformation. And so what I was looking to do was creating a way where I could integrate that idea of trying to be really present to my physical, my emotional, and my intellectual self. And I added the higher self to that, and integrating that with the tapping to make sure that I was really grounded in those places. Because if I was really grounded in those places, then I would have access to all of my resources, not just my intellectual resources or my emotional resources. And I would also be able to recognize in all of those areas of my life if there were blocks or limiting beliefs or struggles. And so I wouldn't just be dealing with my beliefs about something, but I also might find something in my emotional center or surprisingly in my physical center. So what it was doing was an opportunity to unpack the resources that were available, but also to identify in a specific way all the places that blocks could exist. So I was just looking for a way to try and do all of that in a really simple process that I could use daily and then I could teach to my clients.
So not only being aware of the blocks, do you clear them within the process, or this process is only something that starts the journey?
You know, anytime that we are tuning into what is going on inside of ourselves, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, physically, and we are tapping, on some level, clearing is happening. Because by simply drawing attention to that place and tapping at the same time, we're doing work even if we don't know what work we're doing. Now, that might not be the most effective and the fastest way to progress, but progress is immediately going to happen if we're being honest with where we are in those areas and we're tapping simultaneously. But what I found when doing this process is it provides a great deal of clarity of where we're supposed to go next in our tapping. What's the real core issue that we're supposed to be addressing today? It might not be the deepest issue, but where we are in the system. Because oftentimes, I hear this from clients, and I know this from my own experience, is a client will say, I have these 8 different areas of my life that I want to change. I have no idea where to begin. I found that by going through a process like this, where we're really grounding ourselves in our whole person and every single part of our personality and our physical self, what it does is it also provides some clarity about what's most important and where we really need to be doing that movement. So twofolds. So when we do this, there is going to be some progress made, and it might not even be progress that we name and see specifically, but that progress is happening. And 2, what it's going to do is it's going to enable us to kind of clear our mind and really focus in where we need to be doing work today. So this can be used as a great way to start the day, or a great way to start a tapping session before you dive in and go after the heavy stuff.
Okay, great. So let's get to it. Let's get started.
Absolutely. So all we're going to do is we're just going to do the process all the way through. Once we do the process start to finish, then we can talk about some of the finer points of the process and why we made those choices. But initially, I just want everybody to be able to experience what this is like. As we go through this process, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give some really simple instructions on what I'd like you to do, how I'd like you to breathe, parts of yourself where I'd like you to tune into, and places that I'd encourage you to tap. Now, I'm going to give some really specific tapping points, but when you do this on your own, tap in the place that makes sense for you.
And Jane, what do you recommend? When is the best time to do this process? And, what should our environment be? I mean, where's the ideal place to do it?
Well, the beautiful thing about tapping is the environment doesn't matter. We can do it anytime, anywhere. That's the great part of it. Something like this is something that feels a little more meditative. And so typically when I do something like this, since I'm going to be sitting still and just tapping, so from the outside, it would just look like me sitting down with my eyes closed, taking some deep breath, tapping, not saying anything out loud. I'm probably going to want to do this in a place where, one, I'm comfortable, because I'm going to be sitting still for about 10 minutes without significant amount of movement. And 2, I'm going to want to do it in a place where I'm not interrupted. So any place that makes sense for you. If you have a special place that you like to meditate, this is a great thing to do. If you just have a big cushy chair that's out on the porch and it's just a lovely day and you want to be outside, that's great as well. If you have enough confidence to sit in the middle of Starbucks on a busy Tuesday afternoon and do a process like this, you're going to be successful doing it there, as long as you're not letting your anxiety of what the people in the store are thinking about you. So you simply need to be comfortable to make it work.
Okay, great.
So would you just like to jump in and do the process then?
Yes, please.
Excellent. So all I want you to do to begin with is just close your eyes and just take a nice, easy, deep breath. And what I'd like you to do is just to start tapping on your collarbone. And as you tap on your collarbone, what I want you to do is I simply want you to tune into your physical body. As you tap on the side of the hand, you're not trying to do any sort of specific diagnosis. You're not necessarily looking for congestion or blocking. As you tap onto the arm, all you're doing is you're just tuning into the body and just noticing it. We live in such an intellectual, heady time. It's so easy for us to be disconnected from this body. As you tap on the collarbone, you might notice the way your feet rest on the ground or the way your seat and back rests in your chair. And as you tap on the side of the eye and you tune into your body, marvel at the fact that this is trillions and trillions of cells working in concert. As you tap on the side of your hand, this physical body allows you to do so many things and to move through your day, and it's something that sometimes you really take for granted. And as you tap on your collarbone, there are even times you might even curse and be angry at your body because of its limitations or its physical pain. And as you tap on the side of the eye, for right now, just be present to your physical body and appreciate all that it affords you to do. As you tap on the eyebrow, appreciate the fact that all the pain and aches and anything that you notice in your body is simply information your body is trying to communicate with you. As you tap on the collarbone, just appreciate the fact that your body's trying to constantly communicate with you, even if you don't necessarily hear it. And as you tap on the side of the hand, just take another nice, big, full, deep breath, feeling the energy fill your entire physical body. And just revel and enjoy and savor the sensation that you're regrounded in your physical body, which you don't always do. Now, as you tap on your collarbone, I want you to tune into your emotional center. As you tap on the side of the hand, for me, I find my way drifting my attention to my heart space, but it could be anywhere inside of you and it could be all of you. And as you tap under the arm, I want you to take a nice big deep breath in and just feel yourself breathing energy and openness into this heart space. And as you tap on your collarbone, once again, I'd like you to offer some appreciation for this part of you. Side of the eye, oftentimes we really feel like our emotions run us over. Tap on the eyebrow. We feel like the emotions are just taking control, and it's almost an out-of-body experience because the emotions are so powerful. But recognize as you tap on the side of your hand that every single time an emotion does that, it's trying to keep us safe and protect us in some way. As you tap under the arm, recognize that it doesn't always do that effectively and it doesn't always do that productively. Collarbone, but that's its intention. And as you tap on the side of the eye and you recognize how powerful your emotions are, realize that's how powerfully your emotional self wants you to be successful and safe. And as you tap on your eyebrow, just take another deep breath and just feel yourself grounded and connected to that emotional self. And as you tap on the side of the hand, now I'd like you to drift your attention to your intellectual self. As you tap under the arm, recognize that in the modern world we live in, we sometimes live way too much of our life in our intellectual self. As you tap on the collarbone, that this is the place oftentimes we overfunction and work too hard to figure it out and understand everything. And as you tap on the side of the eye, just appreciate that all that thinking and all that planning All of that's rooted in wanting better for you. Eyebrow, even if it doesn't work out as planned. Top of the head, even if it doesn't always do things perfectly. As you tap on the side of the hand, just appreciate the fact that it's always working because it always wants what's best. And as you tap under the arm, just take another big deep breath and just breathe energy and clarity into the intellectual self. Perfect. And as you tap on your collarbone, I'd like you to allow your attention to drift to your higher self. Side of the eye. This is the part of us that is unchanging and is attached to the eternal. Eyebrow. This is the part of ourselves that inspiration comes from. And as you tap on the collarbone, recognize that this is often the quietest part of ourself. It doesn't ache like the body. It doesn't scream out with a thought. It doesn't overwhelm us with an emotion. As you tap on the side of the hand, recognize it's a still small voice, but it's a still small voice that never goes away. As you tap under the arm, recognize and appreciate and thank the fact that it's always present. No matter how much we ignore it and how much we're disconnected from it, it's always there. It's always a part of us. And as you tap on the collarbone, even though the connection might be faint, just feel the connection to that higher self strengthen and grow just a little bit, giving it permission to speak its way into your life. And as you tap on the side of the eye, take another nice deep breath. And as you tap on the side of your hand, I want you to get a sense that your physical self, your emotional self, your intellectual self, and your higher self are reconnecting to each other. As you tap on the collarbone, even though these parts are distinct, they're not separate. They're all us. As you tap on the side of the eye, give each of these parts permission to know that they can tap into the other parts of ourself when trying to solve problems and trying to keep us safe. As you tap on the eyebrow, let the physical self know that it doesn't have to do its tasks alone. It has help. It has other parts that can access. As you tap on the side of the hand, let the emotional self know the exact same thing. Let it know that it's not alone. It has these other resources it can draw on. And it's no failing of the emotional self by drawing on these other parts. And as you tap on the collarbone, do this one more time with the intellectual self. Remind the intellectual self that it has access to these other parts. Side of the eye, it doesn't have to think its way out of everything. It can draw on other intelligence and other genius. And as you tap on your eyebrow and you tune into your higher self, give your higher self permission to work its way into the other three selves. As you tap on the side of the hand, let it know that it's welcome to aid and guide and facilitate transformation. As you tap on the side of the hand, just take a nice deep breath and revel in the fact that you're connected to your full self. And tap on the side of the eye and top of the head. And as you stop tapping, just take one final deep breath, feeling fully grounded. And there's no rush. Just open your eyes when you're ready to proceed.
Well, I feel like I disappeared for a little while.
Good. That's not a bad thing at all.
So do you want to tell us, really quickly what we just did?
Absolutely. The process is really, really simple. And so you don't have to memorize some script. You just need to think of a few steps. And if you notice, you go back and you re-listen. We did the same thing at each place. We tuned into each of the selves. We tuned into our physical self and our emotional self and our intellectual self. And the first thing we did is we were simply present to it. The second thing we did is we appreciated it and how hard it was working for us. It's really easy, like in the physical self, mentioning how we can get frustrated by the physical pain. Well, the physical pain exists because the body thinks that it's helpful. It might not be. It might be conveying a signal that's not helpful, but that's why it's there. And then the third step is just to breathe some energy and some air into that self, just so it feels open and connected. And so we just work through that process with the physical, the emotional, and the intellectual self. The higher self is a part of us that doesn't need to change. It doesn't need to transform, but oftentimes it's the part we're most disconnected from. So when we tune into the higher self, we're just really intentional about that. And then the last step is simply to help each of the parts recognize that the other parts are there. It's so funny when we're doing more traditional kind of parts mediation work with my clients, and we're talking directly to a part, and the part is informed that, there's other parts of the system that want to do this work as well. The part's just relieved that they can just, I don't have to do this by myself. And to acknowledge for the body doesn't have to do all of its tasks alone. To acknowledge to the emotional center that it doesn't have to do things alone. That becomes a really powerful thing. And so by simply connecting all of those things to move forward together, then we're not a fragmented self trying to solve a problem with only a small subset of our resources, but we're able to tap into our whole selves. And obviously with the relaxation and peace that you feel right now, this is also a pretty good one to do at the end of the day as well.
Of course. And Jean, one last question. How do we know that it's working?
How do we know that it's working? How do you feel right now?
I feel light, and I just feel very calm and centered.
So the first thing is we're going to have that experience you have right there, that there's going to be this real sense of calm and peace that comes along with it. The second thing you're going to notice is that calm and peace. You're going to feel very grounded in this moment, that you're going to be pulled back to the now, and you're going to be functioning, not trapped in something from the past and not worried about something in the future, but you're going to be right here. The third thing you might notice, but you won't always notice, is you're going to find yourself, once you're in that state of peace, you're going to find yourself with inspiration, because we've connected the resources and we've tuned into that sense of inspiration. It's very often to go, you know what? I need to spend 15 minutes and I need to tap on this particular emotion. Or, this task I'm trying to achieve, these are the 3 steps that I can take right now. And so that's typically how you know that it's working.
Wonderful, Jean. Well, thank you so much for this incredible process. I am happy that I went through it because I feel very centered, and I'm sure all the listeners do. So once again, thank you.
My pleasure.
So like I said, super, super straightforward, super easy to do. It's something that I do regularly. Back when I used to regularly do 1-hour client sessions, oftentimes I would spend the last 9 or 10 minutes with my clients doing this exact process to wrap up the work that we were doing from that particular session. So it's really, really effective for that. But as you heard in the interview, it's great at the end of the day. It's great for setting up something that is in front of you. If you are doing this particular process, you're going to be taking action more often. If you know someone in your life who could use this particular process, please, please, please be our ambassador. Pass it along. It will make a world of difference to them. And as I always mentioned, our advertising budget is your word of mouth. The goal this calendar year is to get 9 new people tapping a day as a community. If we do that over the course of the calendar year, we're going to add 3,000 new tappers. And imagine if 3,000 people in the world who currently are not tapping were using a process like this once a week, how much better their life would be, how much better the lives around them would be because they are healthier, which creates this rippling effect that we all benefit from. If you have questions or comments, I can always be reached, Gene, Gene, at tappingqanda.com. If you are at tappingqanda.com, if you just click on that contact link up at top, I get those. I love hearing from you. Some of the best topics and conversations we've ever had in the podcast have come from recommendations and questions from listeners just like you. Also, if you found this useful, let me know. It is always a wonderful morning when I sit down at my desk and I check my inbox and I hear from people saying how much one of these tools made a difference in their life. It really makes the time and effort put into creating the podcast worthwhile. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Montrestelli. I hope you have a great day and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Montrestelli Tapping Q&A 2016. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Montrestelli or Tapping Q&A.